The Science of Meditation. Chapter 16. Unconditional Happiness. Perhaps you have felt happy all day because of praise from one of your parents or teachers. Perhaps you were overjoyed for several days after being accepted to your dream school. Or maybe you basked in happiness for a week after a promotion and a raise at work. Those are all examples of happiness tied to specific causes, what I call conditional happiness. But what I want to talk about here is something entirely different, a kind of joy that arises without any particular reason. It's the kind of happiness that makes you want to leap out of bed the moment you open your eyes, eager to explore the mysterious and wondrous world that lies ahead. That is what I call unconditional happiness. I believe that most of us have experienced this kind of joy, at least when we were young. But sadly, as we grow older, such happiness seems to appear less and less often in our lives. In other words, happiness might be something we are born with, an innate instinct, yet over time we gradually lose touch with it. Why does that happen? Is it simply because the pressures of life wear us down, leaving us too busy, too tired, or too distracted to feel joy? If that were the only explanation, then how do we make sense of the fact that even those individuals who are financially secure and seemingly free from daily worries often still feel unfulfilled, or even fall into deep emotional suffering? Earlier, in Chapter 4, Emotion Zones, I introduced the hypothesis that our emotions are shaped by the state of our bodies, a state that is determined by a combination of physiological variables and biochemical factors. The physiological variables include heart rate, blood pressure, and respiratory rate. The biochemical factors include levels of hormones such as adrenaline, serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins. If we accept this theory, acknowledging that happiness is a type of emotion, then it naturally follows that our ability to feel joy is also governed by these physical and chemical states. In other words, if joy becomes increasingly elusive as we age, that is likely due to certain irreversible changes that are taking place in our bodies. In fact, inadequate production of serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins can significantly reduce our sense of happiness and well-being. Over time, a persistent deficiency in these neurotransmitters may even lead to anxiety or depression. What is more, the secretion of these chemicals is closely linked to sleep. Take dopamine, for instance. Lack of sleep can lower dopamine levels, leading to low mood and emotional fatigue. Conversely, sufficient, high-quality sleep helps to regulate dopamine balance, boosting both focus and emotional resilience. Think about it, doesn't that natural, effortless joy you sometimes feel in the morning often follow a night of deep, restorative sleep? If so, you may also have noticed how increasingly rare such restful sleep has become. As I discussed in Chapter 5, sleep ability, both the duration and quality of our sleep tend to decline with age. Sleep research has shown that each sleep cycle is composed of different stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and rapid eye movement, or REM. Among these, the duration of deep sleep is one of the most critical indicators of sleep quality. Deep sleep plays a vital role in physical restoration, immune system function, and overall health. So, how does age affect deep sleep? In healthy adults, deep sleep typically makes up about 20% of total nightly sleep. In other words, if you sleep for 8 hours, only approximately 96 minutes are spent in deep sleep. However, by the time you turn 65, this amount can shrink dramatically to approximately 30 minutes. Such a steep decline vividly illustrates how quickly and significantly sleep quality deteriorates with age. From this fact, we can conclude that the degradation of sleep ability may be the root cause of our loss of unconditional happiness. Although sleep is an innate ability in everyone, that ability is ruthlessly limited and weakened by the fast pace of modern life, as well as by our age. As a result, we lose our innate access to pure, unconditional joy. Although we may not be able to slow down the pace of our current life, and we certainly cannot do anything about our age, there is a way to sleep anytime, anywhere, in any posture. More importantly, that way can help us to let go of worries and reclaim that long-lost feeling of unconditional happiness. So what is that way? Yes, you guessed it, meditation. Biologically speaking, meditation allows the body to enter a sleep-like state while the mind remains awake. In that state, the body receives much of the same restorative benefits that come from high-quality deep sleep. Everything that good sleep can offer, physical recovery, emotional balance, and hormonal regulation, meditation can offer, too. In other words, if restful sleep can bring us back to that natural state of unconditional joy, then meditation can be our gateway to it as well. At this point, you may ask, why distinguish between conditional and unconditional happiness? Isn't happiness just happiness? Is one kind really better than the other? Actually, the difference is profound. Conditional happiness is often fleeting, lasting only a few hours or, at most, a few days. It comes and goes, depending on external circumstances. In contrast, unconditional happiness can linger much longer, and, in some cases, be sustained over extended periods of time. It is also deeper and more enduring. Rather than being stirred by events, like conditional happiness, it arises from within, allowing us to be fully present as we savor each moment with a quiet, unshakable sense of joy and inner peace. In Chapter 15, Religion and Philosophy, I quoted Schopenhauer as saying that life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. But have you ever wondered why Schopenhauer didn't mention happiness? Did he truly never experience even a fleeting moment of joy in his life? The answer is obvious. Most people, including Schopenhauer, have indeed felt happiness at some point. But what tends to linger in memory is usually only conditional happiness, which quickly fades and gets swallowed by pain and boredom. If Schopenhauer had experienced meditation, or simply recalled the unconditional joy that arises spontaneously without external triggers, he might have seen life through a very different lens. Beyond duration, there is another crucial difference between conditional and unconditional happiness. Conditional happiness depends entirely on external circumstances. Once those conditions change, the joy vanishes, like a candle flickering out in the wind. Unconditional happiness, on the other hand, opens the door to a new way of living, one where we no longer rely on external factors to feel deep contentment. With proper training, we can regain access to this inner joy, letting go of attachments and becoming truly free and at ease. Unconditional happiness also grants us an unshakable inner strength. When we stop tying our happiness to outcomes or relationships, we liberate ourselves from worry and fear. As the Heart Sutra says, with no attachment to hold on to, there is nothing to fear. Attachment refers here to the worries and dependencies that bind us. Parents worry about their children, spouses worry about each other, business people worry about profits, and students worry about grades. All these attachments stir emotional turmoil. But when we rediscover unconditional happiness, we cultivate inner stability. Free from clinging to externalities, we become fearless. Ancient people understood this deeply and practiced meditation as a path to lasting peace. Consider Vipassana, one of the oldest meditation techniques in India, which was rediscovered and taught by the Buddha. Its core practice is to observe one's thoughts and desires inwardly, leading to the purification of both body and mind. In essence, this purification means reducing external cravings and replacing fleeting conditional joys with a lasting inner peace, which is unconditional happiness. Even the term Buddha does not imply a god or supernatural being, but simply refers to a human being who is free from worrying and suffering. The Buddha said, "All sentient beings have the Buddha nature." This means that everyone holds the potential to awaken. Anyone can relearn how to sleep deeply and rediscover the capacity for unconditional happiness. This instinct is a natural gift that we are all born with. It has simply been buried over time as we have grown older. Just as Taoist practice seeks to return us to a pure childlike state of nature, philosopher Wang Yangming famously said, "Everything you need is already within you, no need to seek outside." One more benefit of unconditional happiness is that it helps us not only to release attachment to personal gains and losses but also to cultivate deeper compassion and understanding for others. Recognition from others can bring happiness, but it remains conditional. When we regain unconditional joy, we no longer depend on external approval. Instead, we begin to question everything that we once accepted without doubt, including national boundaries, cultural identities, career ambitions, family expectations, and even moral codes and legal systems. Over time, we come to see that all of these are human constructs, not absolute truths. Confucius once said, "At 15, I set my heart on finding the truth. At 30, I stood firm. At 40, I had no more doubts. At 50, I understood destiny. At 60, I listened with acceptance. And at 70, I could follow my heart's desires without breaking the rules." That final line, following my heart's desires without breaking the rules, may well describe the highest state of life. It reminds us that true freedom and joy do not come from the absence of constraints, but from inner peace. In essence, that is what unconditional happiness truly is. Happiness has never truly left you. It has always been there, quietly waiting to be rediscovered. If you have read this far and feel a stirring in your heart, a longing for that forgotten joy, that unconditional happiness, then what are you waiting for? Start meditating today.